So in this video, I want to tell you a story about Dieter Rams. And Dieter Rams is probably the most well-known industrial designer working for a House of Brown, let's say, and many other brands which you probably have known or seen in your journey to UX design. And so around 70s, Dieter Rams came up with 10 specific design principles which can be applied to anything research or design related. If there's a user, a person using your solution, this can be applied to it. Number one is that design has to be innovative. That's because of a lot of emerging tech out there is really driven by technology innovation. It's really driven by people who don't really think about other people or how other people are going to use it. So there's a lot of natural and necessary experiments which are going on. But for it to be meaningful and innovation to actually gain traction, you need to apply a good features thinking, design thinking lenses to it of feasibility, viability, and desirability. This is a typical design thinking approach, right? So it's nothing secret, but that then aids the design innovation, that informs it at least from the user perspective, because typically the experiments are run by feasibility and viability alone. And so you as a designer, to meaningfully innovate and drive that design innovation, you need to consider all three. Dieter Rams states that the good design should be useful, that usability is necessary, that utility has to be there for anything to actually be of value. I think you will agree with that too. You don't want to solve problems which are not problems. You don't want to design for the sake of design if you're a good designer. So you need to find the problem, research it, and then design. So it actually improves someone's life, not just hinder it or clutter it, or it becomes noise which someone else has to go through and sort it for you. And now the next principle is that good design should be aesthetic, and I totally agree with that, because we as human beings are very simple in our nature. We value beauty. There is a lot of different biases which play in how we make decisions, and good design has to be first and foremost attractive for it to then spark engagement and for people to see that it's actually usable. Now, this is something a lot of designers who come from visual design background tends to almost overhype. They forget that it also has to be useful. So be careful with that. Don't just think that it must look good, because beyond, let's say, golden ratio and symmetries and things of that nature, things are quite subjective, and we have to work for your user, not you. Good design should be understandable. It should be self-explanatory. Again, intuitiveness plays a lot in this. You shouldn't need to explain everything unless it's such an innovative thing that the user's never seen how it works or never had an encounter in the nature or day-to-day scenarios. The more simpler it is, the better. And Dieter Rams, by the way, was the biggest advocate of that simplicity is always better. Now, the next one is that good design shouldn't be obtrusive. It shouldn't be a clutter touch point. It shouldn't make your life harder than it needs to be. It shouldn't even cause your user to look for alternatives. And that's where the tricky bit for at least UX design or product design is, that if you're not careful with that, there's going to be a competitor shortly in the market, if there is not one already, where customers can consider value proposition and just jump ship. And now next one, which is a big one, is that good design should be honest, meaning no manipulative or dark patterns. You are not trying to misguide your user. You're not trying to, again, make your user or customer lives harder. They know exactly what to expect of your product or services. It is exactly how it looks like. What you see is what you get, nothing more, nothing less. Next one is good design should be long-lasting or should last long. And this is meaning that as a good designer, you shouldn't chase trends. You should actually look at the history of trends of visual design and interaction design and reflect exactly what was done before, and then take the best parts out of it to make your decision. What's that trend with glass-like frosted glass panels? And I don't even remember, probably for a good reason, but that's the example of something which is definitely going to pass. And from UX perspective, there's accessibility, usability, and many more factors to consider to make those visual means better. The new trends usually steer away from that, which is a shame. Something new comes into the market, everybody goes crazy, but then majority of it never makes it live or is shipped as a product beyond a simple website or brochureware type of solution. And that's probably for a good reason. Every little detail makes a bigger whole. And the more you as a designer can sweat those details, or actually even better, make sure that your team or your organization actually cares for it, the better the actual products and services are gonna be. Because they become those actual guideline setters, if you take the likes of Apple or Microsoft or any other tech giant who actually pave the way everyone else then has to design for the years to come. And so in other ways, Dieter is saying you have to sweat the details, or you have to sweat them appropriately, or you have to make your team sweat the particular details in their own regard so that the actual solution is tightly knit. Good design is actually conscious of the environment. It's everything from the product design and it being recyclable, let's say, or the product design which makes it long lasting, anything to do with waste and prevention of waste. Therefore, even if, let's say, we would take something like UI design, which is, part of the UX, designing without keeping every other principle in mind and designing just for today or tomorrow is not good enough. It's about conserving the resource. It's about minifying every single step. It's almost like also underpins the automation and trying to avoid that unnecessary interaction from the user side, because everything is wasteful, everything costs energy. And probably the most obvious one is that good design is as little design as possible. My take has always been that good UI is no UI or lack of UI, because you can then support the decisions people make. You can actually save them time so they can spend on something else they want to do. Instead of working through these tasks and using your products you design, you could actually do it for them. That's the whole philosophy. And I love that Dieter Rams is the same way, because he was designing actual products people need to use every single day. And he understood that if that's the case, the interactions have to be minimal. If it's not essential, it shouldn't be in your product or service. And I think these are 10 golden nuggets which you can use to inform even your UX design principles for your design org, for example. You could build on top of that, because these are timeless, just like his design. And if you like this video, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe to his channel, leave a comment down below. And on that note, I'll see you next time.